That's true, although they are going well in the most mature market in Asia, which is Japan, obviously. And I live in Japan, so without concentrating on Japan, obviously you want to improve things outside of Japan. But I think, as maturity comes to other Asian markets, China, Singapore, etc., then like Japan, customers or consumers will eventually grasp what Italian wine has to offer. And the first thing to do is don't change your style. Don't try and make a wine for the Asian consumer. I think that's a huge mistake. It's a mistake that perhaps the Australians, increasingly other New World major exporters are trying to do and making that mistake. I think keep your dry structural focus, your food-friendly wines, and eventually the consumer, as they become more mature, like the Japanese consumer, will come around. But you just have to be a bit patient. In the meantime, without changing your style or without changing the essence of the wine, the quintessential Italian soul of the wine, do visit these markets more often, because Asia, more so than the Western markets, it's inherently based on relationships. And that sounds very obvious, but unless you go and meet the consumer, even if the language is difficult, even if the cultural barriers are huge, without going there frequently and meeting the consumer, meeting your distributors, then it becomes difficult. And Asia is all about, more so than the quality of the wine, dare I say, about human personal relationships. So make sure that those happen. Yes, I think that's important. I mean, obviously, major DOCs, DOCGs like Chianti Classico, Brunello, obviously, are very important because they're regional brands. And the problem, perhaps in Asia, with Italy, aside from the cultural barriers, the need to go and make these human relationships happen, is that Italy does not have a lot of strong regional brands outside of Chianti and maybe lesser so Brunello. It doesn't have any white wine regional brands, so to speak of. Obviously it does if you're Italian, but outside of Italy people don't know these. So it is important to build these regional brands up, and yes, I agree with that. It is important to maybe start from scratch, but don't change the wine styles. Keep the quality, but tell the story. Tell the story about your regional brands, your history, your heritage, and start with those that are most prominent. Chianti, Brunello, obviously Piemonte with Barbaresco, Barolo, and then build the other ones up around that. Torazzi, for example. I mean, how do you build Torazzi? No one's ever heard of it. What great wines. But you need to tell the stories, and they don't need to be too confused. They need to be straightforward and strong. But yes, a good point, and I agree with that. Yes, you should build the regional brands up. You don't look to France as your nearest competitor. Of course, maybe in terms of volume and profit, it still is. But no, in Asia, New World is very powerful. Australia is very powerful. Chile, sadly, is I'm not a huge fan, but. It's a powerful market because, or a powerful wine-producing country culture because of the FTA agreements throughout a lot of Asian countries, which, on top of the fact that labor costs are low there, the wines are fruity, they're forward, they're easy to understand, they're wines that are coming in at a very competitive price point, and so that's also a huge competitor. Argentina to a lesser extent because they don't have the diversity. California, no, because Californian wine is relatively overpriced for what it is, except for in Japan where it is competitive, but certainly Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Australia, and Chile. Yes, be aware. And Australia, despite the fact that I go to Vin Italy every year and hear all sorts of things about industrial Australian wine, Australia arguably, at least for me, offers the finest wine in the world outside of perhaps France and Italy, and along with them, a lot of regional diversity, and Australians know that they're being accused of industrial winemaking, but in fact there are a lot of small artisanal, biodynamic, organic producers in a country that, as you need to be aware, is the size of all of the European continent. So it's stupid, and you're stupid if producers out there are thinking that it's all industrial, because there's a lot of small stuff going on, and it's going to come back, and I think Australia will be a huge force again that you need to be aware of. But Chile also, and of course France, yes, but you know that anyway, so I don't need to tell you. Yeah.